Aha, hello? I have no idea what I'm doing. This is this is a lot of people. Uh Joseph Krakowski. I don't know what to make of that image, to be honest. It's a little unnerving. Um so, hello. This is something that I'm going to be trying out. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. This is something I'm going to be trying out. I have no real plans. I'm just kind of doing this entirely off the cuff. I was hoping there would be fewer than 100 people here, but here we go. Um, I was going to go figure out how to change the thumbnail on this, but then I realized that that is not something I can do privately, that everyone's going to be watching that. Um, so I thought for like a little bit of time while I'm around, we could just do like a little tier list or something. Going to be going through English monarchs. It's worth noting I am not that well versed in English history. Um, Most of these guys, I recognize most of them. Um, Somebody say, all right, let's give it a go. Um, so we'll start with old Athelstan here. Did a video on him a while back. He's really the first one you can actually call English, so I feel like good on him for that. We'll put him up. Give him a good. Um, this is oh my god. Having never done this before, I have to say this is the most incredibly awkward thing. I am just completely rattled with anxiety right now. Uh, uh Jesus. I didn't realize when I had started this that this was actually going to go live immediately. I had this set up through OBS, and I thought I was going to be able to run this um, through YouTube's system, where it lets me like pick out a thumbnail and oh, there's my desktop background. That's weird. Why is that up there? Um, yeah. Anyway, I was gonna run it through YouTube system and set that all up and like kind of get myself ready before starting. And this just kind of started halfway through out of the blue. So that's a fun time. There's a possibility that I might just like, because I'm worked up about this, I might not actually get through this, in which case we might just do like a Q&A, because that feels more, I don't know, it feels more natural to be sort of interacting with an audience as opposed to just trying to off the cuff pretend like I have a video set up and ready, um, and all kinds of witty things to say about people that I know nothing about. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, hope you're all enjoying your pandemic. This is what happens. It drives us to crazy things. I think this is set up chronologically, with the exception that the first kings have been put down in the bottom here. So I'm not even 100% sure that's Athelstan, but I'm hoping it is. And this is where we're going to have to get into Wikipedia immediately, because all the Anglo-Saxon kings, anyone before William the Conqueror, is completely beyond me. Might just skip them. This is going to be great content of me reading through Wikipedia, trying to get enough of a handle on who these people are in order to like pass judgment on them. Let's see. Uh, Death of his half brother, little opposition, constant warfare. God, I should have rehearsed this. Um, yeah, we're just gonna go off. You know what? I think I might just scrap this. I don't know why I saw someone commenting the tier list is upside down. I don't know what that's about. Um, Somehow they put it the wrong way. That would actually make sense to correct that, I say, seconds after deciding to scrap the entire thing. Let's throw up the kings that I actually do know something about. Maybe we'll settle for that. All right, that looks like the right order, right? I feel like mediocre should be above quite mixed, but 130 viewers. Oh, great. It's only going up. Only going up, baby. I actually don't know that much about William the Conqueror besides the conquering bit. I don't know if anyone in chat has any more information, but all I know is he just kind of showed up and then he was in charge for a little while and then died. 20 years. Do you research videos online, or do you use books? Mostly online. I've used books for a few videos. I'm researching a video right now where I've been reading a book, and I feel like it's it ends up most of the time if I use a book to research, it'll end up giving me so much information that I just find it very, very difficult to appropriately condense it all. Like I was doing some research earlier today and made like an outline that was supposed to be about a page, and it ended up going for 3 or 4 just because every tiny little interaction ends up having something on it. I'm realizing now also that every time I switch to the actual live stream, the window I had on previously is just getting smaller and smaller. But at least this way you can see how far behind I am. He was so fat on death his body burst. William the Conqueror was? That seems very strange. I tell you what, I wish I had some sort of I wish I had this up in another window where I can actually see what's going on and have something to respond to. I don't think this is going to work though. This is why everything I do is typically on a video where I can put some 80 hours of preparation into it. Oh, that's right, the Doomsday book. I've totally forgot about that. Are there multiple of these? I feel like I've heard the same term thrown around for a couple of the Anglo-Saxon kings. I should probably be reading these out loud as opposed to just internally. English counties south of the River Tees and Ripple are included. The whole work seems to have been mostly completed. What is actually in it? I feel like it's probably going to be just one of those consolidating power census type things that doesn't actually bring about a whole lot of change. Highly abbreviated. Love it. Vernacular native term. Yep, determining what taxes and allowing them to collect. All right. Give him a fair. Now I'm trying to think of the horrible history song in order to actually name the first few, because I know it goes William the First, William the Second. William the Second he was the one that died on the hunting trip, yes? Switch over back to that for a second. If anyone, by the way, if anyone knows the appropriate way to set this up, I would love that advice. If you press on the mouse, you'll open a new tab. The other trouble is the chat is so far behind that I feel like anything I say, I have to wait around a minute to actually hear anything back. Yes, AJ Gooderfall, the Horrible History song. They did a on the left. You can pop out chat. On the right. On the right of what? I would love to use a second screen, um, but I do not have a second screen. I've only got the one. Oh, pop out chat. Lovely. Uh, Perfect. I'll just kind of do that. Throw this over here. You can see what I'm researching in the background. Everything's great. Yeah, Horrible History has had that song going through. I think it's just the names of all the kings of England. They start with William the Conqueror, completely ignoring the good king Athelstan and the other people in between who I know nothing about. And I know it goes like William, Stephen, Henry. And from there, I'm completely lost. So the only thing I really got out of that is that there's a Stephen in here. But William II, I'm just gonna throw him up under mediocre, assuming he's done nothing. And then so that's Henry II. That looks like Stephen. Who is this guy then? And also, where does Matilda fall into all this? I like the comment about the note on my phone about obscure historical figures. I actually do have a list of just all the different people that I've heard about or that I've read in comments that I intend to get around to eventually. Most of which have been on that list for probably 2 years or more. Um, Most modern person you're going to make a video about. I'll answer this question. I'll try to go back to the list. Probably the most modern that I'm going to get is I feel like Leo Major is like World War II. I really didn't expect to get into World War II again. I guess Mao technically went a little bit further because that went beyond the Korean War into like the 70s when he died. Um, but that's anything in the 20th century is murky waters for me. So we got William the Conqueror, followed by his son William. Someone said Matilda fought for Henry II. I thought Matilda was sort of her own thing. Like she had gathered power in part of the country, but didn't ultimately win the Civil War or something. Shows what I know about early English history. Is Nixon too far? Yeah, Nixon would probably be a little too close to the present. Power over Normandy. How long did he actually reign for? 13 years. Oh, he reigned longer than I thought he did. A rambunctious devil-may-care soldier without natural dignity or social graces. Oh, I love the sound of this guy. Maintained good order and satisfactory justice. Not great, satisfactory. Oh, it's Henry the First after William. That would make sense because there would need to be a Henry the First in order to have a Henry the Second, wouldn't there? Um, Henry the First, 1100 to his death in 1135. Another son of William the Conqueror. Oh, did he? Oh, that's right. I'm thinking back to the CGP Grave video. I think Henry the First was the reason that he was the one that got William the Second on that hunting trip, right? Presence, yeah, on a hunting accident in 1100, seized the English throne. This is nice because I can actually do research at the same time as I attempt to make some kind of content. Robert who invaded? Who is Robert? Have I completely missed something? Purchased a county in western Normandy from Robert, but his brothers deposed him in 1091. Huh. Peace was short-lived. Okay, this is a whole lot of text. Okay, so this is where Matilda was his daughter. Declared his heir, married her to Geoffrey of Anjou. It sounds like, again, not a whole lot happened. Another one of those Henry the Satisfactory types. Continental Welsh politics. An increased threat from France. Another King Louis. Hard to tell which one it is offhand because they've all got the same name. Succeeded to research central royal power. Matilda. Oh, so Matilda, interesting. Holy Roman Emperor. So then what happened? That she ended up with someone else. Oh my gosh. Absolutely love your high energy videos. Learned a lot about people. $20. Turning the test stream into the best stream. Who says Wikipedia isn't a reputable source? Thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, Wikipedia, every once in a while I will find something on Wikipedia that, shouldn't be there, or something is linked to the wrong place or whatever. And I'll try to fix it if I know enough about the subject. But I feel like, yeah, Wikipedia is pretty decent. As long as you're able to pick up, if there are any lingering questions or something doesn't make sense, like you need to sort of, read it discerningly, but it is for the most part pretty reputable in my completely, unacademic opinion. But I haven't gotten in trouble for using a lot of it so far. Matilda married Henry V. Henry is, this is normally where I just start control effing my way through the entire article. So it sounds like Henry I went through, some rebellion, succession crisis. So basically trying to hold together the stop England from becoming a total shit show. Props for that, I suppose. For avoiding a War of the Roses in the 1100s, because that's a whole bunch of fun we get to later. Let's see. I saw a comment that I was going to respond to, and I was like thinking, I'll remember that and then come back to it in a second. And I have immediately forgotten which one it was. Oh, it was the would you consider doing a Life and Times on Frederick the Great? Potentially. I think Frederick the Great is he's one of those people that will actually show up in history lessons, so he gets searched a decent amount. And having done the video on Maria Theresa, I think it would sort of make sense to do one on Frederick the Great at some point, but it's not. I don't know much about him aside from the fact that he was gay, so my comment on shipping him and Maria Theresa uh, made completely in jest just so happens to not be a legitimate theory talker. But B, that he kind of what I said in the Maria Theresa video, just that he was, taking over Silesia and sort of a force to be reckoned with at the time. Should I ignore the stream? Yes, ignore it. Need a chance to figure this out because this is completely unprofessional. Ethelred the Unready. I suppose we'll get to him in a little bit here, but I don't know anything about Ethelred the Unready aside from I think he was in charge when the Danes took over? Question mark. All right, Henry the First. We'll go ahead and assign him. Give him a fair, assuming he was actually important in keeping England together. I'm gonna love to see the comments from people telling me how horribly I have misplaced half these people. Yes, you're right, Canute the Great. Okay, great. So Ethelred was right before Canute. Okay, so this is Stephen. To be honest, I love his face. Oh, this is a different picture. Stephen of Blois, Count of Boulogne, Duke of Normandy. Oh, that's right. This was God. How much of France and England were actually connected at the time? Because I know at some point it ended up being like a good half of modern day France was part of this whole Angevin Empire. His reign was marked by the anarchy, civil war with his cousin and rival Matilda. Who? Okay. Oh, Henry II was Matilda's son. For some reason, I thought he was a brother or something. So basically, what I'm gathering is that this guy didn't have a whole lot of control. Um, no, no, never mind. Early years were largely successful. Let's see. This is always the interesting thing about the sort of the wartime kings or the ones who are sort of defined by that conflict because it's hard to tell. You can only really judge by did they win the war or not? How did that come out? And you can't really see what they were actually planning to do with their own country. His son Eustace. Oh, that would. Ooh, a King Eustace. Boy. Pope. Love some good Pope drama. All right. Stephen will toss him into another uh mediocre or bad. Throw him in bad for now. Although I feel like that's a little unfair just because he was uh had war declared against him and didn't happen to win. It seems strange to put him that way, but I suppose he's not absolutely dreadful. We'll save that for the Rascals. For actually, I can't think of that many. I guess it's like what John, Richard the Third, um, Richard the Third. Uh, um, Richard the Third. I feel like he was mostly terrible just because of his personal life, wasn't he? Like he kidnapped his cousin or nephew or whatever, the previous king. Now waiting for all the Richard III comments to come in. Anyway, who comes after Stephen? Second. Oh, okay. This is somebody who Richard III stuff Tudor propaganda. Oh, okay. You know probably just as much about this as I do. Um, it's that seems entirely possible that Henry VII would put out all sorts of mean things about Richard III. Um, yeah, I'm curious to see how Richard III was as an actual ruler. Anyway, Henry II is somebody who I should know more about because I did Eleanor of Aquitaine, but I'll be honest, I remember very little about his reign because most of that Eleanor video was her bouncing about on crusades, uh, courtly love, all these sorts of not as many like matters of policy or whatever. Came involved with Matilda, fighting with her, peace treaty, yada 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 yada. Henry's empire quickly collapsed during the son of his reign, John. Oh, okay. So is this Is that empire just a matter of joining Aquitaine with England, or was that a matter of conquest? Talked about the Norman invasion of Ireland, and thus begins the long history of the Irish situation. Um, that is a terrible way to refer to Ireland. Um, the rebels. Oh, that's right. I forgot about his young Henry rebelling. Ancient Empire really decentralized because feudalism. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like we're just going to end up with a lot of mediocre kings here. Victorian expansion. Oh, interesting. Victorian expansion of the British Empire. Historians interested in the formation of his empire. Concern of his private life and treatment of Becket. Who is Becket? Led to conflict with his former friend Thomas Becket, Archbishop of Canterbury. So more. God, what is it with Henrys and Thomases in England? European history so boring. Oh, I mean, I don't know. I prefer it to American history anyway, because I feel like American history, with some notable exceptions, but a lot of it just comes down to various acts of I was about to say Parliament, acts of Congress, um, different laws. It all comes down to like Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War One, World War Two, a little bit of Gilded Age in there, but like even I feel like everything leading up to the Civil War is always just talked about in the context of the Civil War. European history is a bunch of countries throwing hissy fits at each other. Yes, it is, and that's why I love it. It's just a bunch of like petty children sometimes squabbling at each other, and it's beautiful. Economy and finance. There is something other than unification. Restored many of the old financial institutions of his grandfather Henry I's reforms, supply, money, inflation. This is this is basically what the beginning of a video looks like right here. Is just a lot of Wikipedia. Is there anything particular about finances, or is it just he did finances? I'm just gonna. I figure if I can't be interested in him for that long, then I'll give him. I'll put him a mixed. Question about how I'm able to crop portraits. Initially, it was very much not perfectly. It was a sort of a complete mess where I just kind of took 2 seconds to put something together. Um, it it ended up I just had to spend more and more time trying to cut them out and make them clean and like erase around them, and eventually I got to a point where I'm fortunate enough where I can have someone else take care of that for me, and it ends up saving me a lot of time that I can spend doing live streams and other things. Richard, I feel like I have to put I feel like Richard's reputation sort of immediately puts him at least good. Um, I have no. I'm basing this almost entirely off of like my knowledge of Robinhood, which is probably not a reliable source. But let's see. King's successor, Richard the First, second king of Plantagenet, ruled a whole bunch of France, various times, third of five sons. Uh, Lionheart. So I think I know he was part of the Third Crusade. Did he do anything with England of that was important, or was it just sort of he went on a crusade and was a good soldier? Following his extension, he spent very little time, perhaps as little as 6 months, in England. All right, I feel like that answers that question, as someone points it out in the comments. Most of his life as king was spent on crusade, in captivity, or actively defending his lands in France. Rather than regarding his kingdom as a responsibility requiring his presence as ruler, he has been perceived as preferring it merely as a source of revenue to support his armies. Oh, excellent. uh, Someone was right when they were talking about the Frenchies, I guess. All right, I'll knock him down to I'm gonna say I can knock him down to wherever William the First is at fair. If England was actually holding together in spite of him, but more commonly by his epithet than his regnal number. What is he, Richard? Oh, first. Fourth Crusade is the medieval equivalent of Italy. Didn't realize I had Skype open. Didn't realize I had Skype open. It's the God. Where did that comment go? Something about the Fourth Crusade being Italy in World War II. I don't know that I entirely agree with that, because Italy in World War II, as much as I know, it was a mess, but it wasn't like Fourth Crusade level of mess. Because the Fourth Crusade was just one fantastical screw up after another. Italy at least killed some of the other side. Exactly. Uh, Italy managed to not, I guess, attack its own allies or supposed allies until I guess they did eventually switch sides, but that was at least deliberate. Coronation and anti-Jewish violence. Uh-oh. Oh, Richard. Oh, no. Was officially invested as Duke of Normandy on 1189. When a rumor spread that, oh, okay, Richard's courtiers stripped and flogged the Jews, had them thrown out of court. A rumor spread he had ordered all Jews to be killed. The people of London attacked the Jewish population. Oh my God. Many Jewish homes were destroyed by arsonists, several forcibly converted. Jesus. All right, I think that's definitely going to take Richard out of the fair category. Much disappointment. Rumors spread that, reading the same thing again. Offended that he was not being obeyed. Oh yeah, what did he actually do to try to handle this situation? Punish the perpetrators, allowing a forcibly converted Jew to return to his native religion. Were there? It sounded like there were many. Offended that he was not being obeyed and realizing that the assaults could destabilize his realm on the eve of the departure of the crusade. Execution. Oh, so he did something about it. Oh wait, great, there's another massacre. Edict was only loosely enforced, however. In the following March, further violence occurred. Yeah, I'm gonna Richard, no. I feel like mixed is actually probably the best term for this. Let's see. Longshanks, CAD level English kid. Which one's Longshanks? I've completely forgotten. So now I'm sort of hoping to have the opposite happen of John. John is of course one of the sort of famous bad guys of the English kings, and I feel like I'm just going to find something in here. It's like actually his progressive and generous tax code. I mean, he signed the Magna Carta. He was forced to sign the Magna Carta, but he did sign it. Why are all English kings named Richard the Terrible? Well, I mean, if you depending on your thoughts on Richard the First, I guess we'll see how Richard the Second turns out. I guess the question I want to know more about the Barons' revolt because that could honestly be for a number of reasons, and pissing off the Barons doesn't necessarily make you the worst king. Depends how you piss them off. Henry's favorite child. Ah, how sweet. Got Ireland. Let's see. War with France. Wait, when War with France broke out. Oh, which. Oh, I guess this is like actual French France as opposed to regular or Aquitaine English France. Innocent the Third. Wait, oh, what? He was involved with Innocent the Third? This will be fun. Uh, an argument with Pope Innocent the Third led to his excommunication. Oh, okay, got resolved. That would be. Would have loved to see the English Reformation come early. Attempt to defeat Philip. Oh gosh, this is all. So I don't know much about John, but apparently all this stuff around him is bringing back flashbacks to the Innocent the Third episode. It'd be interesting. I always love going back to see time periods that I've already covered and getting like a different, only tangentially related perspective on it. Contemporary chroniclers mostly critical. Let's see. King. The nature of government ill-defined and uncertain. Terrific. Just memorize that horrible history song. Why does go? Every once in a while, I jump back in the chat and see that I have completely missed everything. Louis the 14th stream is pretty much history nerds just arguing. That's pretty much what it's meant to be. I sort of wanted to do something for a live stream that wasn't going to attract too much attention, so I figured a giant block of text on Wikipedia was pretty much the right thing for that. But let's see how well that diversion strategy has actually been working. 148. Okay, still gone up a little bit. Why are there 148 people here? I will never know. Okay. John got excommunicated because he wanted his friend to be Archbishop of Canterbury instead because the Pope assigned. So that was that sounds like a thing Innocent the Third would have done. Is he was big on papal power. Was Thomas Cranmer the architect of Henry VIII's divorce? I thought that was a different Thomas. I thought that was oh god, there's too many. There was the I think it was the original Archbishop of Canterbury that not Wolsey. Was it Wolsey? That's the thing. I could remember who they all were at the time. Okay, it was Wolsey. I could remember who they were at the time, but there are just so many of them that like their faces are all I remember, and I no longer have any idea which Thomas is which. Okay, Thomas Cranmer. Do I remember his face? Oh, I think he was only one of the ones that I threw in as like an extra Thomas at the end. I don't remember actually seeing that much of him. Cranmer replaced Wolsey. Yeah, that would make sense. Wolsey wants an annulment. I thought it was Wolsey that didn't want the annulment. Although there was, not to be confused with the Thomas who ended up getting arrested because he refused to, or was that Wolsey? There was one Thomas that was best friends with Henry VIII until he passed the thing splitting up with the church. And that Thomas just sort of like refused to follow that and ended up getting arrested. And I believe he died. He wasn't like executed, but he died getting transferred between prisons or something. Life and Times of Harold Hardrada. Gotta remember who that is. Harold Hardrada. God, as far as I know, he could either be. Maybe I'm confusing him with Harold Godwinson. Hardrada was Viking. Thomas Cranmer was Cranmer was burned. Oh, that is intense. All right. I'm gonna go jump back into the tier list until unless we get some more questions in chat. Life and Times of Muhammad. That is one thing I think I'm going to avoid, especially because you're not supposed to use pictures of him, and that makes it quite difficult. But also, the comment section would be a mess. Oh, that's right, John. I forgot we were talking about John. John can go. Do I rank him above Richard? For the meme, why not? He didn't kill a bunch of Jews in London or was not responsible for their deaths. So yeah, why not? Henry III. Oh, Start article. Love one of those. Why not Ogadai? Ogadai Khan is someone I would be more likely, I think, to do Ogadai than Genghis. Just because I feel like everyone kind of knows the story of Genghis Khan. Temujin, who wasn't supposed to amount to much and ended up conquering like a third of the world or something. But Ogadai, I think, is a little allows. It would be interesting to do a video on Ogadai to explore sort of how the Mongol Empire fell apart so quickly, because Ogadai was the last person who sort of all had it under control. Well, this is kind of boring, so okay, leave. See ya. Ogadai buried in Iran. Pop quiz. Monarch of Canada. Ilkhanate. I would love to know more about the Ilkhanate, to be honest. Let's see. Henry III. I actually know nothing about Henry III. Fourth King of Plantagenet. Is this? No, it's not until Edward that the War of the Roses starts. Declared war to be a religious crusade. I love that like half the wars of this time period were technically crusades or were declared as crusades. King attempted to reconquer France, which I'm sure went wonderfully. Following revolt war. Known for his piety, holding lavish religious ceremonies, giving to charities. He extracted a huge sum of money from the Jews in England, attempting to segregate the community. Oh, geez, they just can't catch a break. His brother Cornwall to become king of the Romans. Again, I feel like I'm just either I'm skimming and to such a degree that I can't take anything in, or I feel like I'm not actually getting a lot that gives me any kind of idea of who this is as a person. So I am just going to throw him into... I'm going to put... The word mediocre to me sounds nicer than quite mixed, so I don't want to put him below Richard, but I do want to say he's mediocre. And I've lost track of which king this is, so I'm going to hope it's this one, because the things are all different on Wikipedia. And this is, okay, this is the point where, oh god, the War of the Roses, I don't know who any of the people are individually. It all just kind of blurs together. Or is this even, am I still not at the War of the Roses? I don't think so, because this is 1200s. Told you Wikipedia was not good. What about it in particular in regards to what I said? Wars, Welsh wars, Crusades, Scotland, Constitution, incessant warfare. That sounds... Throw him in mixed. This is just going to be a lightning round all of a sudden. 200 years before the War of the Roses. Interesting. I thought, oh yeah, you know what? I guess they must have been... Yeah, I forgot about 100 years. 100 years comes first, and then War of the Roses. Yeah, yeah. So then what is... I guess it's all the 100 Years Kings that I just know nothing about and have no real care for. First Scottish War of... Wait, Scotland? Oh, well, oh. Okay. I did not realize, uh, I suppose, that he had conquered Scotland. I was thinking that I was thinking that Scotland had actually managed to be independent all the way until the Union. So when did that happen? I totally missed which king took him in the first place. Okay, First War began with English invasion of Scotland. Got it. Basically picked a puppet king in Scotland, subjugated for a time. Got it. Okay. So then, what actually ended up happening at the end of that? Scottish victory, Scotland successfully maintained. Oh, that... Calling that the War of Scottish Independence seems a little misleading to me. Made it sound like, like a type of, like War of American Independence, Revolutionary War. There's some version of the Revolutionary War has the word independence in it. Um, this just sounds like a regular old war. Close out of some of these tabs. In truth, Scotland conquered England. They did sort of. Sort of like William and Mary. You never really think about them being just this, or one of them I think was English. Mary might have been, but William, you don't really think of William being... I don't even remember which William he is, but the William of William and Mary, you don't think of him being just like, that Dutch guy that conquered England. England just sort of... No, we invited him. Yeah, Mary was English. William was Orange of Dutch. Yeah, William of Orange was Dutch. By the way, I saw some just random questions in the chat earlier. So feel free to... This is probably going to be like half Q&A if you want it to be. I'll just probably ignore most of them, or I'll look at them and then continue doing whatever I feel like. Edward II, unpleasant death. Lovely. I love a good... Was it an unusual death? That's the real question. This is a long way of explaining someone's death. My goodness. Maybe I should have done a, instead of England, done some kingdom with less information. Probably burned to death. Yikes. Edward III informed that his father had died. Could die at Berkeley at that date. Wait, so when did... Hold on. Okay, so this is talking about his father, Edward. Effectively politically rehabilitating Edward II. This is not... I have completely... I'm seeing the things about the hot poker up here. But I am not seeing it in here, or at least I'm not reading well. Can I search poker? Aha! Oh, there it is. Rumors began to circulate he'd been murdered. Possibly as a result of deliberate propaganda. What sort of... I have to wonder what you gain by spreading that kind of a rumor about someone. Colorful account of the killing became incorporated into most later histories. Well, I'm going to... that does not affect his ranking at all, but that's interesting, though... Yeah, I'm not totally sure if I'm going to believe that story. Anyway, I saw a few questions up here. What is the purpose of that stream? I assume you mean this stream. I am interested in doing some streams semi-regularly or long-term semi-regularly in the future. But this is something that I have no experience in, so I figured I just wanted to do something and just sort of get myself to do it, even if it's not, well prepared, because this is something I've been putting off for several months at this point. Farewell, Sloth Cat. Don't use Wikipedia. There's another question. Oh, games I've been playing. I recently picked up Assassin's Creed Origins, and that has been excellent. The game so far has been all right, but just seeing, honestly, the first thing I did was just jump into the sort of museum or tour mode. Jack Backman, what sources do you use alongside Wikipedia? There isn't like a particular source that has everything that I go back to. Wikipedia is just usually a point of reference in order to get to other sources. EU4. I downloaded Europa Universalis for a long time ago, and I opened it for all of about 10 minutes and was completely overwhelmed and had no idea what I was doing and failed miserably, and I closed it, and I think I tried once or twice more, but that is like that was about the last time that I really remember doing anything with EU4. I'll probably get into it at some point. Is Origins in Egypt? Yes, Origins the one in Egypt. Let's see. Chilean historical. I don't know of any Chilean historical characters. You'll have to refer me to some. Life and Times of Jack Rackham. That's also something that I have tried doing, or I tried doing that a long time ago. I started doing some research for a Jack Rackham video, but the problem is he was a pirate, and pirates didn't leave a lot of records about themselves and what they've been up to, and they, generally tried to keep away from as much attention as they could. So all there is really I can give you the life and times of Jack Rackham in about like a minute, and it's just that he was he an English dude? He may have been an English dude, but he sailed under this guy Charles Vane. He eventually sort of like took over from him, um, and uh, he he had Anne Bonny and Mary Read, um, and he eventually got captured and strung up, and it was a bad time for him. Thoughts on Romanian history? Romanian history. Give me 1 second. Romanian history. The most I know about Romanian history, honestly, is a little bit of around World War I, maybe, or at least I kind of think of it in regards to that. And I know um, Romania as Dacia, I think, when Trajan was invading, and that's sort of all I know about Romania. The Ottoman or Safavid empires. My immediate thought was I wanted to say that I had done something about the Ottoman Empire, and then I realized I don't think I have. Um, yes, it's definitely a possibility, but I don't have any immediate plans. Um, Louis XIV is a fun one. He's sort of like on the back burner in case I need to, pull out a more famous figure to get those views. Um, I'm gonna do another Swedish monarch. Maybe. I think any questions that are about would you ever do so and so, the answer is almost certainly it would be a possibility, but I don't have any plans. Although I did see someone mention Jadwiga of Poland, and that after I was working on the useful charts video about Poland, and she was someone that sort of captured my interest and that I, put down onto the short list of people that might be interesting to interesting to learn about more. Maybe do a video about. Uh, Favorite music genres? The thing I've been listening to a fair amount recently in regards to the whole pandemic is there is this someone some group of artists or something put together like 3 albums of the Decameron as music. And the Decameron, for those not in the know, is this like medieval book put together by an Italian author about these people these sort of like nobles that during the Black Death, they all just kind of go escape to the countryside and tell each other stories, and they tell each other 100 stories over 10 days, and that is kind of the thing behind the album as well. All right, I'm going to jump back into doing some ranking as fast as I can. I think I'm just going to put. I think they're just a bunch of young dudes, not nobles. Oh, maybe they are. Maybe they are. But I feel like they're wealthy at least if they can just go run off to the countryside. I think this is Edward II here. I'm gonna drop him in mediocre. I feel like we're gonna end up with a lot there. Um, this guy in the helmet that looks out of time period. I don't know who is wearing a helmet like that um in the 12 or 1300s. Edward the Third. This does not look like a portrait of Edward the Third, but everyone else is in order, so I just assume that it has to be, because after him is Richard the Second. Edward the Third, noted for his military success in restoring royal authority after the disastrous and unorthodox reign of his father, Edward II. Well, that sounds pretty opinionated, and I shouldn't take Wikipedia at face value like that, but that does immediately make me want to drop him lower. Edward II, anyway. To one of the most formidable military powers in Europe. Really, I never really considered England as a substantial player on the European theater until like around the time of like Henry VII, Henry VIII. Shows what I know. Second longest in medieval England. Saw vital developments as well as the ravages of the Black Death. Love it. Edward III started the 100-Year War. That would make sense. I guess so. That would mean if Edward III started the first phase of the 100 Years' War, I believe that was the phase where England was actually doing well. I think it wasn't until like a couple kings later that Joan of Arc came around and France sort of turned the tide on them. Yes, went exceptionally well for England. Victories at Crécy and Poitiers led to the highly favorable treaty. His later years marked by international failure and domestic strife. Lovely. Personal rule, fortunes of war. Genuinely interested as to whether he. I mean, I've said it a few minutes ago. I think Wikipedia can be very helpful. I think it's great for getting a gonna do that real quick. I love that everyone can see not just the chat but my interactions with the chat. I think I'm going to have to figure out a separate thing for that later. But yeah, Wikipedia. I think it's a great way to get like an overall impression of a subject, a person, a time period in history. As long as you can look at it with some discretion and follow up as appropriate. Personal rule. Let's see. Staged an another invasion of Scotland. Awesome. David the I'm guessing that's a Scottish king. More wars. This is just a lot of wars. I feel like all these medieval English kings. It's just a lot of wars. Which I mean makes for an easy to tell a story about him, but eesh. Let's see. Drop him in fair, even though he's probably mediocre. Edward III, famous for being a warrior king. Yeah. Do I have a degree in history, or is it more of a passion? It is. It's more of a passion for me. It's something that I actually before starting this channel. And I talked about this in some podcast or another. But before starting this channel, it was sort of like one interest of many, and it was just sort of through doing this that I just went further and further down the rabbit hole. And I am just now beginning to feel the effects of speaking for this long. My throat's gone dry. Yeah, shout out M Laser podcast. It probably was. It probably was with him. His M Laser and Kokito have a podcast. Although I believe Kogito, he wasn't there for a little while. I think he may have officially dropped out of it. I don't recall. Copied whole paragraphs of Wikipedia, called it a day. I would love to see how that worked out. Yeah, that's the instance of when Wikipedia will betray you. Don't worry, suspicious patron. I have been hydrating myself. Richard II. All right, let's see if Richard II follows up with Richard I and the Third. Edward the Third having so many. How many children did Edward the Third have? Oh, that's a lot of kids. Are we ever going to do one on ancient history? I've done a few on ancient history. I've done a couple on Rome. I did Pompey, Nero. I did a really ancient history on Hammurabi once, which was interesting going back that far. Government was in the hand of regency councils. That always works out well. Influenced by his uncles, always works out well. John of Gaunt and Thomas of Woodstock. Those are some interesting names there. Is there something? There's a Woodstock joke in there somewhere. Peasants' Revolt. Oh, did England have a Peasants' Revolt? I suppose it would, but I'm mostly thinking of Peasants' Revolt makes me think of the ones in Germany like 100 years after this. John of Gaunt is someone you should look into. Interesting. Um, yeah, Peasants' Revolt. Someone said Peasants' Revolt failed. Charters granted to rebel towns, eventual suppression of revolt and execution of rebel leaders. Yeah, well, if they got to the Tower of London, decent job. What, Tyler? Okay, this is going to be a whole rabbit hole. I'll just acknowledge that this was a thing. Oh, I guess let's see how Richard was doing. Wow, he is not mentioned at all in this. It looks like John of Gaunt and the uncles might be really worth looking into. Promised mercy, but then had all of them killed. Love when that happens. That seems to happen not so much with like empires and kingdoms fighting each other, but mostly like with peasant rebellions and things like that, where clemency is offered and then just immediately revoked. Oh, interesting, interesting. So how does did he marry? How on earth did Henry IV get in there? All right, well we'll drop where is he? We'll drop Richard II into bad just as sort of like more useless than anything else. Although he was in there for 20 years, who knows? Um, Richard got overthrown. Henry IV, new king. Okay, so it was just a new. It's a new dynasty, I suppose. Because Richard this, yeah, final one of the direct line Plantagenet. That's how it ends up going to Henry IV. Interesting. Okay, so how did that whole succession work out? Louis the First gained control of the insane Charles VI of France. Interesting. Um, Punishment for this reason, he found it opportune. returned from Ireland, landed in Wales. So is this like a just sort of a war? Sort of a war is how Henry IV went in. Now fully determined to take the throne, but presenting a rationale for this action proved a dilemma. However, he was not next in line to the throne. Was solved by emphasizing his descent in a direct male line. Oh, I see. That. Oh, so I guess that is that then why did England previously use just sort of an oldest or like an oldest line rather than a specifically all male line before this point? Because if so, that would be sort of amazing if Henry IV just kind of like pulled this out and said, "No, no, this makes me so much more important." Henry had agreed to let Richard live after his abdication. This all changed when it was revealed that the earls, all now demoted, had been given by Richard, were planning to murder the new king. In response to yes, in response to the life and times of Jack Rackham, I said something about that earlier. Henry IV. Henry IV. I really want to see the Shakespeare for Henry IV because I know his Crispin's Day monologue, which is excellent. Uh, but I have no. I mean, I don't know the context in terms of like he's going out to fight. Oh God, what was the name of the battle? Um, oh, was it was it Henry? Oh no, it was Henry V. Oh no, Agincourt. Yep, that's what I'm thinking of. Never mind. Uh, I think there was a Shakespeare on Henry IV, but I'm guessing it's definitely not the one I was thinking of. So, whoops. Hello, extravagant. I'm doing well. Siblings married off to Portugal. So, what ultimately? What are we doing? We're ranking. We're ranking English kings. We're ranking English kings and reading a lot of Wikipedia and doing some Q&A. 4 to 6 and 8 have Shakespeare plays. Interesting. I wonder why Shakespeare would skip Henry VII. How long do you plan on doing YouTube? For the foreseeable future. I'm at a point where I am planning to launch a Patreon some point in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. Um, but also, like, it's something where it's sort of just at that point where, although this is sort of a rough time to be making that transition, it is approaching a point where I could pretty soon, use uh, YouTube and related ad revenue and sponsorships and Patreon to support myself. So that's so I will definitely be on YouTube for a while. Knock on wood. Had to skip Henry VII because Tudors were so recent. Oh, that's but 8 was fair game. I guess was Henry VIII unpop. I can't imagine Henry VIII would be that unpopular because Shakespeare was writing during Elizabeth's reign. Henry VII was not very popular. Interesting because maybe it's just because I'm being influenced by History with Hilbert's video, but I always sort of saw Henry VII as a pretty good king in terms of ending the Wars of the Roses and filling up the treasury and just putting England in sort of a strong position that then Henry VIII sort of took advantage of and went to war with a dozen people and bankrupted everything. Yeah, blame Hilbert for that. Um, all right, I have to scroll through the entirety of Henry IV's page without reading anything. Um, Henry IV. So is this? What's Lancaster? Okay, so this was before. You want 10-minute histories video about England? Yes. I don't know specifically which videos you're referring to, but I have seen a bunch of his videos. All right, we'll drop. I'll drop him in fair just because I'm being lazy and I don't want to punish him too badly for that. Um, do you like anime? If so, what kind? Yes, I haven't watched a ton of different shows, but I'm trying to think what it was that I watched most recently. I watched I watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Of course, that was still a while ago that I watched that, but that was really good. It's very well put together, and they do twists in a way that actually kind of pay off, and the whole thing is very concise and like it's actually working towards an ending, and I appreciate that so much as opposed to just kind of doing like a couple different seasons that go around and around. So yeah, FMA big recommendation. I have not seen JoJo though. I have only seen JoJo in the context of memes and images pulled out of context. Um, Henry V. Outstanding military successes, famous victory at Agincourt, immortalized in Shakespeare. Um, yeah, that's gotta be. I mean, partially because I haven't put a single king besides Athelstan at good for a while, so I think we'll drop Henry V up at up in the good category. I don't know if we're gonna have any glorious or any absolutely dreadful for that matter. All right. So this now we get into the very messy times. Henry immediately comments saying Henry VI was bad. Uh, King of England from to 1461 and again. Oh, I love a good interruption in somebody's reign. That almost always is a good story. Oh, thank you. Thanks, that guy. Yes, I actually I shouldn't say yes so enthusiastically. Crassus, I'll say this much. Crassus is going to be showing up again. I don't have plans to do a whole video on him, but I do have a video coming up that is, sort of in production that is set around the end of the Roman Republic, and Crassus is, I wouldn't say featured prominently, but he is in that video, and he is like important as opposed to the Pompey video where he was just kind of like there and recognized. Um, Crassus, yes, the Haydn of Rome. No, the Haydn of Rome is Lepidus for sure. Lepidus is, dare I say, more, maybe not more uninteresting, but certainly more overlooked and just forgotten and completely waysided than Haydn. Because the first triumvirate, like every single member of the first triumvirate, was important and mattered in a big way to the empire. Whereas in the second triumvirate, you have Antony, who was Caesar's right hand. You have Octavian, who honestly I don't know what he really did before Caesar's death, but he was in Caesar's will, he was Caesar's heirs. And then you have Lepidus, who was just there, just poor Lepidus doing his best, but he didn't get killed, so that was, gotta envy him for that. Yeah, love a good Lepidus joke. There was some good four useless things with him. Inherited the long-running Hundred Years' War, claim to the French throne. His early reign, in which several people were ruling for him. Interesting. So what happened? How did Henry VI end up getting kicked out? Amidst military disasters in France and a collapse of law and order in England, the Queen and her clique came under accusations. Oh dear. Which, now is this Queen Margaret? So is that his mother or his wife? Well, it's not his mother. Yeah. It's the War of the Roses. Yes, War of the Roses have just begun. Second triumvirate, they basically made a pact to solve their disputes later. Yeah, pretty much. Triumvirate's such a good idea until they're not. Well, okay, so collapse of law and order doesn't sound great. Nor does civil war. What was going on with Margaret? Weak-willed, easily influenced. Friends with Margaret and Anjou, the niece of King Charles, in which he heard reports of Margaret's stunning beauty and sent Suffolk to negotiate. On the condition that he would not have to provide the customary dowry and instead receive the province of Maine. What? How would you love to just suddenly be a part of a different country after being just negotiated away part of someone else's marriage? Marriage took place 1 month after Margaret's 15th birthday. Yikes. Also, I didn't realize there was a Maine in France. I guess that would explain the state. All right, so I feel like it's pretty safe to put Henry VI into the bad category. King. What do you think is the most overhyped war in history? I mean, I feel like in terms of World War II, I think just has so much hype around it, and is the subject of like every second history meme and every other documentary. So World War II, if I have to pick an overhyped war in history, I would say World War II. I'm curious to see how World War II will be viewed in like 100 years from now or something, because I feel like it's perhaps partially because it's the most recent war on such a huge scale. But World War II is this huge sort of like good versus evil type war that most wars in a way that most wars aren't. Um, and I'm curious whether in the long run it will be seen, if it will continue to be seen that way, or if it will be seen as sort of, just another one of, Europe's team death matches, but with, a little bit of extra genocide on top. Uh, Overhyped war, the pig war. Underrated war, it's hard to say because if it's underrated, I probably don't know about it. Can you review who you've ranked so far and where? Yes, so far, the only goods we've got. Oh god, I've got to remember everyone's pictures again. The only goods we've got are Athelstan and Henry V. Under fair, we've got William the Conqueror. I've forgotten which one this is. John Lackland. I think this was like an Edward, and we got Henry IV. Underneath that, we've got. I think this was William II. And a couple other kings who I've immediately forgotten because these are not the portraits I'm used to. I don't know where this person found most of these. Mixed, we have Richard the Lionheart because apparently he spent all his time in France and just saw England as a way to take a whole bunch of money and use that to pay for France, and also got a whole bunch of Jews killed in London. And then under bad, we've got Stephen the First and Henry the Sixth. Speaking of, we can now move right on to something else. This is going to take a while. This is going to take significantly longer than I expected. You have Athelstan, but not Alfred. This only begins with Athelstan because Athelstan is. I didn't make this, but this is conveniently Athelstan is sort of where I would consider the kings of England to begin, whereas Alfred was, a king of Wessex, an important English king, but not king of England per se. I keep forgetting that like when you run a stream for this long, that people are just going to jump in halfway through and not know what's been going on. So interesting. This looks like, oh, okay, because he was succeeded by himself and didn't have anyone in the middle. This seems like a weird Wikipedia bug, but it might not be. Regalia 123. I want to play Paradox games. I have been consistently too daunted to actually do so. And thank you, and thank you. Okay, Edward the Fourth. I have to remember my Roman numerals here. For some reason, I was thinking we'd already done 4. Yorkist faction, lineal descendant, heir presumptive, less than a year old when he came to the throne. Great. Children rulers, always the best choice. After 1437, oh wait, after 1437, he ruled in his own right. Interesting. Oh, 14. Okay. This is talking about Henry. Henry. Lord Parsnips 57. I would not describe myself as a gamer, though I have a few things on Steam. Divisions developed after Edward's marriage. Warwick switched sides and restored Henry to the throne. Oh, interesting. The restoration of Henry VI in 1470. So he just showed up for a year and then peaced out. After gaining Burgundian support. Huh. Interesting. I mean, I guess I would go back and forth quite a bit for War of the Roses. Killed off. Yeah, that is... Killed off is typically a little more common than piecing out. I love that last little attempt. I have to wonder what Henry VI could have done if instead of coming back for the throne for that 1 year, if he had actually just decided to go on with his life somewhere else. In his youth, a capable and charismatic military commander. Energy dissipated, little desire to campaign on his own behalf. Though the economy recovered from the depression of 1450, that's a long depression. 1450 to 1470, spending habitually exceeded the income from taxes. Interesting. Edward himself is less known. I'm just throwing in mediocre. That's just the answer for everything. I'm just going to have an entire list of a whole bunch of mediocre kings and then, like, 2 good ones. Maybe 3, because I'm probably going to throw Henry VII in there. About to enter the year depression. Hey, what about the Timurids? Valois, Burgund, Dukes of Burgundy. That, what? Life and times of an entire family. Look what fool! Look what. I have to. Your messages are all split up, and I have to see what exactly you're referring to. A video either about Santa Anna or Sam Houston. I feel like this is going to be. I feel like this is most of the questions that I get are relating to who would I do a video about. Sam Houston, I don't know much about. Santa Anna, I remember as I only remember very generally that he was like a really influential military leader in sort of the early years of Mexican independence. Because I remember I think when I was doing the Polk video, he showed up from time to time. I forget whether or not he was still around and in power, because I want to say he got kicked out of power, maybe. Military dictator, there you go. But I forget what he was doing exactly around the time of the Mexican-American War. But yeah, I actually is Santa Anna on my list? Let's find out. Microphone. Oh, someone's saying, is the this would be embarrassing if so. How is the audio quality, by the way? Because I can't hear myself through this. And I'm just assuming that it's coming through my Yeti, but if it's been coming through my laptop this whole time, that's going to be real embarrassing. Okay, good, excellent. Dukes of Burgundy that played a major role in the Hundred Years' War and deaths leading to the Habsburg-French rivalry. Oh, interesting. The yeah, I do love the Habsburg-French rivalry. I love that, like, France seems to have just a really intense rivalry with everybody to some extent. I mean, mostly the English and the Germans, but to a certain extent the Spanish. I don't know. There's just something really something I find so refreshing about their commitment to hating other countries for hundreds of years at a time. Any period or country you won't do? Excellent question. Um, I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any period or country that I won't do. Um, I'm, 20th century is not my favorite. It can be a little dicey, but I've gone in from time to time. I don't really intend to do anything that's like the past 50 years or so, but you never know. I think there's definitely not like a country I wouldn't do. It's only the only limiting factor is if there's a good bit of like entertainment to be had, like a good story or good joke or something like that. And then mostly if there's just enough information about somebody. But I do love reaching from time to time for like something uh, obscure to throw in. The only thing that I would be averse to would be um, sort of like major uh, religious figures. Like I wouldn't do a video on like Jesus or Muhammad, um, but like a video on like one of the disciples or something would be a possibility or within the realm of possibility. Let's see. Yeah, I've got a um, whole list of people. I'm trying to see if I have because I haven't gone through this in a while. I was looking. That's right. I was looking to see if Santa Ana was in here. Yeah, Santa Ana is on the list, although some people have been on the list for years and years. Um, Ranavallona's in here. Odoacer's in here. Cola di Rienzo, who like took over the city of Rome for a little bit. Um, William Lyon Mackenzie King, Theodoros Kolokotronis, because I've got like a dozen requests for him from the same person. Um, what's this about John the Baby Maker? I have not heard of this person. Time to I time to not wait for responses because that's going to take a while. But time to jump into Google. John the Baby Maker, Duke of Cleves. All right. Oh, okay. So that is an excellent name and exactly like the perfect sort of YouTube title. But unfortunately, I don't think I could make a video on this guy. He fathered 63 illegitimate children. Oh my goodness. Before marriage. Interesting. That's got to be interesting to explain coming into that marriage. Not much information on her either. 63. See if there's anything I missed. Philippines, I don't know anything about Philippine history, except for the extent that the U.S. is involved, and obviously that Spain was involved before that, but like that's only really like the colonial history of it. Um, Pilgrims of England before America. I've been interested in doing some like American history before the Revolution. I feel like that would be interesting. All right, jump back. I may have to just like bail out halfway through because this is we got a long way to go. That's all right. This was only to give me something to do in between responding to chats. Um, this does not strike me as an official portrait whatsoever. God, oh God, so many tabs. I can't keep track of which one has the king in it. Paint on MS Paint, talk to chat. Nice. Uh, that would be, yeah. If anyone has ideas of like interesting, live stream type things you would enjoy seeing in the future, let me know. Because this is obviously a huge work in progress. Let's see. This is a boy king, isn't it? Yep. Rain for all of a few months. Um, is it is it fair to put a kid that wasn't really in charge at all under Absolutely Dreadful? I mean, that doesn't seem. I feel like I need a new category for this. I guess I'll just throw him in bad because instability and whatnot. Yes, yes, no, one no. All right. I feel like that's a nice compromise. There was a Polish king who had 273 children. Oh my lord. That ranges into the territory of like how much of that is actually verified and how much of that is like, some kind of rumor. Um who uh who what like the one on Morocco of 2000 kids, that doesn't seem uh entirely reasonable to me. But who was the Polish king that supposedly had 273 kids? Oh, that's right. I asked about live streams, and I needed to actually look through those comments to see what there was. And I am out of water. Um, EU4, CK2, get the community involved. I would need to actually jump into those games to see how they work. Is that something that like the community could actually be involved in? I was under the impression those were, for the most part, single player games or designed around that. History games, history games, Pericles. Yeah, they have multiplayer. Okay, excellent. Um, Tons of people up to. Ah, so is EU4 or CK2? I realize this is a very plebeian comparison, but would those be just like Civ but more complicated in the way that they work with having multiple with multiplayer? Way more complicated. Oh, that's right. CK2 is, as I remember the things about the characters. If you play CK2, everyone will try to seduce you or your spouse. Love it. Let's see what else people suggested. I think someone said something about the editing process. That, or I'm completely making it up just to talk about it. But I believe I saw a comment in there. Um, and that was, as far as the editing process, that is something where until recently I did a lot of that very hands-on. I am starting to be not so involved in my editing process anymore. Um, Collab with History Matters. Oh, that would be interesting to do, like a multi-person live stream. Someone asked if I had live streamed before. This is the first time I've done anything on my own channel. I've done a couple before. Like I was in a stream with there was like a Columbus Day stream last year. Last year meaning, oh, it could have been like 2018. But I've been a guest on a stream. I think that one was on Cynical Historian's channel. There may have been another on Mr. Beat's channel, but this is the first time I've done anything on my own. Yeah, History Columbus stream. Collabs with Crazy Boris Productions. That would be fun. I don't know what we would do, but that would be that'd be cool. That was a good experience. I was really excited to kind of get to meet with him and hear some of his voice work, like with words that I had written. It was very exciting. Interesting. Historical literature. I am not. I don't think I'm. Even though I am not professionally qualified in any way to really talk about history, I feel less qualified to talk about literature. Uh, how long will I be streaming? I am. How long have I been streaming? I'm probably going to need to cut it off at some point and maybe continue later. 107 minutes. Oh, okay, that's not as long ago as I thought. Oh, that is nearly 2 hours. Oh, I'll give it maybe another like half hour or so. So we're not getting through these. Um, let's see. Richard the Third. Um, House of York, lost Plantagenet. How long was he? Oh, for such a famous king of England, I was really expecting Richard the Third to have lasted a little longer than 2 years. Was that just the coronation? Like, was he at war for most of that? Was he like reigning behind uh, Edward Five? I don't know. No, he was only named Lord Protector in 83. Interesting. No, very much things go bad quickly. Great. Um, there is not currently a Discord server. That is something I might get. I might figure that out later if there's interest. So what did Richard III actually do in terms of ruling then, aside from just taking over and nixing Edward V and losing to Henry VII? Oh, he invaded France. Nice. That seems like a great use of his time. Oh no, that was before becoming king. Part resentful of French king's previous support for Lancastrian opponents. Oh, that's awesome. That feels so petty to me. Probably not. I'm sure it makes sense in context, but hmm. Council of the North. Okay. Controlled the north of England until Edward the Fourth's death. There, and especially in the city of York, naturally, he was highly regarded. Um, Set up the Council of the North to improve government control, economic prosperity. Did he actually do it? Warden of the North. Anytime of the North gets involved, like it just instantly becomes awesome. On his ascension, he made his nephew president. Interesting. Interesting to see the term president be used here. Here we go. King of England. Um, Stanley switched side. The Stanley switched side at Bosworth. I didn't realize that was the Stanleys. Stratford. Yeah, this all just sounds like sort of military details. Stanleys are really. Yeah, I can tell because they I know they were around for a while because whatever the numbers they were at in terms of like Lord Stanley back when like during the English Civil War, They were already, at like 7 or 8 or something. So I knew they went back a few generations. I just didn't realize they were uh, important at Bosworth. Oh, hey, it's Archer M. I've seen a lot of your comments. Most famous Shakespearean villain, definitely. Um, Although I feel like there's, I guess like Iago didn't have like a play about him in the way that Richard did. Can you count Macbeth as a villain? So I feel like for the sake of tradition, I have to throw him in bad. Even though it seems like he really didn't do much. Um, no, Macbeth is more tragic hero. Yeah, villainous, but not a villain. Henry, God, this is so not the picture I have of Henry VII in my head. Anyway, I am relatively fresh on my tutors, so I can throw Henry VII into good category pretty quickly. I can throw Henry VIII into, I'll put him as mixed. I feel like you got to give him credit for Church of England, but I feel like everything else he did was just war and bankruptcy. Um, I love in the chat, by the way, that you can see immediately when someone joins because they'll make the same comment about refusing to ignore based on the title of the stream. Can I mute just whoever you're referring to? I think I have either already muted them or I don't. Oh, the yeah. I think you can. I like because I couldn't see it immediately. I think you can. I'm pretty sure you can mute on your own end. Um, and also I am not keen to discuss chat adminning in the chat. Um, in mediocre, quite mixed. It's too short. His general image is more based on his portrayal as a villain in the Shakespeare play. Yeah. Um, oh, that's right. We got Edward again, just not really effective. Um, oh my gosh, is this? Oh, they have they have Lady Jane Grey in here. Um, just I'm so pleased with her inclusion that I'm just gonna throw her to Glorious. I'm I'm impressed that they actually included her. Where did I put Edward III? See, I don't remember which of these portraits is Edward III anymore. So if you can pick him out, you can see where he is. Um, but I've already forgotten. Uh, Mary, I know Mary at the time, I think because she was Catholic, I think wasn't regarded too highly, but I don't remember her being a particularly bad monarch. Although, yeah, let's see what she did to the Protestants anyway. Religious persecutions. Interesting. Is there? I'm trying to see if there's like a Protestant massacre or anything that I've missed with Mary. The years of Mary's reign were consistently wet. Interesting way to describe a reign. Persistent rain and subsequent flooding led to famine. Lovely. Killed 300, but that's it. Yeah, well, only 300, right? I gotta find where that is. Furthering the Tudor conquest of Ireland. Religious policy. Issued a she would not compel any of her subjects to follow her religion, but by the end of September, people were imprisoned. Great. She sounds to me just like a tyrant. Like she doesn't seem to be um, incompetent in the way that some other people were, but she seems to be very much on this train of like, all right, arrest Protestants, kill some of them. Julius, wait, is this the Julius that I? No, this is not the Julius I'm thinking of. How long have I been streaming? About 2 hours. I'll put her in mixed. Quite mixed. Elizabeth. Again, I don't know how much it is of my just thinking about Shakespeare, but I feel like got pretty good impression of Elizabeth going in. No, the I think you'll find in reference to someone saying do your research. Basically, this whole thing, I am doing just the minimal amount of research necessary to form an opinion, and then immediately and forever casting people into my judgment. But just enough to hopefully throw out some interesting information. One of her mottos was, I see, but say nothing. I have a thing going on with the Pope. Are you interested in a trade agreement with England? Became celebrated for her virginity. A cult grew around her. Acknowledged as a charismatic performer and dogged survivor in an era when government was ramshackle and limited. I don't know. I'll give her. I'll throw her into fair, maybe. Except I have to scroll. I will hold all these thoughts inside me, and then one day I'll die. Elizabeth I. Sounds like it. I love that kind of motto. I'm just gonna watch and not do anything. Um. Okay. So the Tudor. I feel like, or the Tudors. What am I saying? This is the Stuarts, where the Stuarts starts. This feels to me like a pretty reasonable place to make the cutoff. And at some point down the line, I can do the Stuarts and the Windsors and the rest of them, and all these Anglo-Saxons that I have the foggiest, not the foggiest ideas about. Um, anyway, before I head out, I am curious to hear what you all think about. I mentioned it a little earlier in the stream. Don't know who is here, but I have been sort of at that point where I can just about begin to support myself through what's coming in through YouTube, and so I've been constructing a Patreon, and I'm sort of wondering what. First of all, with live streams, again, just kind of what sort of things people would be interested in seeing, whether or not this worked, if this was to your taste, or if it was incredibly boring scrolling through Wikipedia, and B, if there's any kind of like Patreon rewards or goals, or even like if there's a like a special kind of video or series or something like that you would like to see me do. Um, yes, I should also mention in response to Suspicious Patron, this I understand that a lot of people are especially now not in a great position to give a whole bunch of money, and I totally understand that. Let's see. Hunter Dishley, 7 minutes, would definitely watch 2 hours of this. Lucky for you, there has been 2 hours of this, so you can probably scroll back. Although I'm gonna unlist this after um, the announcement for streams. Yeah, I can probably for streams like put something up on. I'm on Twitter. I feel like that would probably be an easy place to make an announcement. This was very like impromptu, so I haven't I my intention was very much not to attract a whole lot of people, because this was very nerve wracking, and especially right at the start of the stream I was just flooded with anxiety. More live streams with historical era themes like a Mongol, Ming Dynasty, or Habsburgs. Interesting. Um, yeah, I don't know how that would manifest, but I like the idea of possibly doing like a long-term run through, or like the story of a time era or something like that, almost in like a Dan Carlin kind of way, although that would require obviously a little more preparation. Jay Bishops, I'd say it worked 100+ views consistently. Thank you. Thank you for your donation. I really appreciate that. Um, that's excellent. I was not keeping track of the views. I am very grateful that you have that information for me. I also have no idea what to normally expect from live streams. I have no idea how much that compares to views on videos of subscribers or anything like that. Königsmarks, Sabaton made a song with them. Interesting. Um, been doing my essay with your voice in the background. Excellent. Hope that it wasn't too distracting for you. I feel like I can I don't know, I can write with music, but for whatever reason, like I can't do anything with words if I'm listening to talking. I look forward to any future content you will make. I hope your life goes well in the meantime. Thank you. Um, Now I'll learn Latin and write a treaty on hunting. Historical movie reviews of specials. Interesting. Um, yeah, I'll have to you'll have to give me some ideas on terms of historical movies to review. I know there's already sort of a channel out there that does a lot of that, but that could be an interesting special as like a whatever Patreon goal or something to and hit a certain milestone, and I can put out like a longer sort of review. Um, can someone ask him why his last few videos were kind of low energy compared to his earlier? I think I was just slowing down a little more. Hopefully they weren't too like low energy. I felt like especially with Leo Macho, I was very excited about that one and trying to pump it up, but I'm trying to keep them at sort of a more of a performative pace, a little more like a recorded story, as opposed to like, all right, here's the information as fast as I can possibly go. Not that I don't enjoy that, because I listen to everything on speed. Let's see. Seeing if there's anything else I've missed, although I'm probably missing stuff at the bottom right now. Um, feels a bit more professional at slightly lower energy. Yeah. Um, Jack's French accent meme. I am unaware of this meme. Um, History of history, different historical books on history. Yeah, that what I'll recommend for you, Jackson, is Overly Sarcastic Productions has done a couple of videos on Herodotus, the sort of ancient Greek historian, as well as oh god, what was her name? She wrote the Alexiad. She was a Byzantine princess. But if you're interested in history of history, I can recommend those. Um, Le meme. The videos on the Yans. Love the video on the Yans. Gilles de Rais, that would be interesting. I actually let me look him up real quick because I love his I love him as Castor, and it'd be interesting to learn a little bit more about the real guy. Let's see. I only need to see about how much information of him there is, because basically all I know about him is that he killed a bunch of kids. I'd love to do like Elizabeth Bathory if it weren't for the fact that her story is almost certainly exaggerated to the point of absurdity. Um, History Buffs is the channel that does historical movie reviews. That's right. Um, Test stream to watch. Cool. All right. So I'm gonna wrap that up here. We'll check. Interesting. I'm gonna wrap that up here. Probably go look through the chat a little bit. See what kind of suggestions you guys have that I missed. Thanks all for tuning in. I will see if and when I am doing this in the future. And now I gotta actually figure out how to end it. I think I can just end it over here, right? Yeah. All right. See ya.